Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "Things that cause sin will inevitably occur, but woe to the one through whom they occur. It would be better for him if a millstone were put around his neck and he be thrown into the sea, than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin. Be on your guard. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. And if he wrongs you 7 times in one day and returns to you 7 times saying, 'I am sorry,' you should forgive him." The apostles said to the Lord, "Increase our faith." The Lord replied, "If you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you would say to this mulberry tree, 'Be uprooted, planted in the sea,' and it would obey you." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
Today we hear from the very first verses of the Book of Wisdom. The Book of Wisdom is written by, or at least it's in the tradition of King Solomon. So either he wrote it or one of his scribes, or it's kind of the oral tradition of King Solomon, the wisdom that he had. And it's written down in this Book of Wisdom. There's a couple of things that I thought were striking about the reading this morning. First of all, how it begins: "Love justice, you who judge the earth." So essentially, this Book of Wisdom is written by a wise king. And it's his advice to other rulers and kings about following God. And it's something that maybe in our modern age we kind of are skeptical about things like this. In our modern age, if there's anybody who we are critical and skeptical of, it is people who hold political authority. And often not just political authority, but really just people in authority in general. This is one of the spirits of the modern age, influenced by Karl Marx, and that ideology has really trickled down for the last 150 years. That people are skeptical of institutions, people are skeptical of politicians and rulers. Part of the epic of the entire modern age was a rebellion against authority. And that's why so often the church gets roped into this. Because the church, all throughout her history, has always been supportive of authority figures. Not because the church believes that they are impeccable or anything like that, but because when there is no authority, then chaos becomes the authority. But what's very beautiful to me, I think, is that when you look through church history, for example, many of the great saints of the church were kings and queens. People who held great political power. And they used that power not for themselves, but to serve God. And one of my favorite examples of this is a woman who was the Queen of Sweden, right around the time of the Protestant Reformation. And Sweden was one of the strongest Protestant strongholds in the aftermath of the Protestant Reformation. And as queen, she loved learning. And so as she studied philosophy and theology, she realized the emptiness of Protestantism. And she felt the urge to convert. In Sweden, it was illegal for a monarch to be a Catholic. And so she was left with this decision: do I remain the queen, or do I convert? Now again, some people might see this and they assign other motives. There's actually, I think it was a show on Netflix recently. It basically was a show about this queen, and they tried to imply that actually she was a lesbian, and that's why she didn't ever get married to a king, and that was, modern people sometimes are very skeptical But this queen, she found a way to have a private Catholic tutor, and she learned about the faith. And eventually she actually fled her country and moved to a Catholic country in Europe, because not only was she fearful of the political consequences, but she was actually afraid for her life, what might happen to her. But she recognized the need to be completely obedient to God, the truth. So we need to be careful when we just put blanket statements on people who are in authority. We should be praying for them to have wisdom. Another striking line in this reading is, because he's found by those who test him not. Right? Wisdom is found by those who do not test him. In the book of Exodus, it says that we should not put the Lord our God to the test. And again, one of the most common traits or common heresies of modern Christianity is this attempt to put God to the test. I will follow God if he answers this prayer. That's putting God to the test. So many people, when they leave the church, what are they saying? Well, because I felt like God abandoned me, he didn't answer my prayer. Right? That's putting God to the test. God does not owe us anything. We should not be testing him or putting conditions on our faith. And when we stop doing that, we slowly begin to become wise. Because we aren't so much demanding that God do things for us as much as we are asking him what he wants us to do for him. And then wisdom comes.